Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live mentoring call. And I'm also recording this as a episode of my podcast, the Service Accommodation Property Podcast. I'm joined on the call by Martin. Hi, Martin.
Good afternoon, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Okay, so this is how this is going to roll, everybody. Some of you will be watching this live. I'm putting it out on my social media and also into certain groups. What we're going to do is a live mentoring call with Martin, and which is also going to go out on my podcast, the Service Accommodation Property Podcast. And so anyone who is watching this live or watching this on replay on the different social media platforms, by all means, you can put your comments into the comments boxes. And what I'll do, any questions that you've got or observations, I will come back afterwards and answer those in the chat. In the meantime, what we're going to do is just a mentoring session with Martin, who's going to be asking me his SA questions. And as I've said, that is being recorded as we speak and will go out on my podcast as a podcast episode. Okay, so Martin, would you just like to explain your current circumstances and ultimately what you would like help with today?
Thank you very much. My current situation, I've been doing short-term rentals SA for the last 18 months, having attended your excellent course in progressive property, and that's developed and just gone through some sort of structural changes. And the first thing I wanted to ask you is that I've got a mix of properties, buy to SA, rent to SA, but one of the properties is owned outright by my brother, and your view on moving that into the holding company or leaving as is.
It's currently owned by your brother, and what is the plan with that, to turn that into service accommodation?
Correct.
Okay, great. Well, normally my advice on this type of situation is that there's no need to do anything with it in terms of its owning structure. The advice that an awful lot of people default to when from these days is to move properties into a limited company in order to avoid Section 24 tax, so that you can offset mortgage interest against it. And even when Section 24 isn't an issue, quite often people still seem to think that everybody needs to be operating and owning property in a limited company these days. And yes, that sometimes is the best scenario, but when it comes to service accommodation, not necessarily. And it depends. So ultimately, unless an accountant tells you otherwise, and a knowledgeable accountant who understands your brothers and your circumstances based on your joint venture together moving forward, my advice is that you can just leave it alone. In its current state, it's owned by your brother as a sole trader, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so ultimately, yeah, you would be able to raise finance on that property. Does it have a mortgage on it already?
Yes, it does.
But is there any headroom in there? Would you be able to raise more money against it?
Yes.
Great. So yeah, you can just do that and get a mortgage, a refinance mortgage on the property in his own name, which is ultimately cheaper than limited company mortgages anyway. Because the property is going to be used as service accommodation, 100% of the mortgage interest will be able to be offset against the service accommodation income, because the activity that you're going to be engaged in with the property is a trading activity. It's service accommodation is trading. It's not investment income. With buy-to-let and HMO is investment, and that's Section 24 affects that activity. So that's good news. So no need to try and incorporate. A lot of people fall into the trap of, wanting to incorporate, they've got to pay capital gains, they've got to pay stamp and all of that stuff, or long-winded situations where you can sort of get incorporation relief further down the line. But you don't need to do that with this particular property. You can use it as service accommodation now. And then the other thing to consider is the capital allowances, because if you're happy sharing, tell me about the property. What's the value of it? How much, if it was sold today, would it sell for?
It's a 2-bed flat. It was purchased for 168,000. It's in a block of 5 flats. There's a couple of others that are also run as SA within the building, and that is permitted. So yeah,
all good. Yeah, so 30-40 grand's worth of capital allowances there, which effectively, for those people listening in, means that all of the qualifying plant and machinery in the property that is now effectively being used for the serviced accommodation use or furnished holiday let use. Effectively, it is actually a holiday let. It just gets called serviced accommodation by the industry. Effectively, you're going to be operating the property as a holiday let. Doesn't matter where the property is or what it looks like or anything like that. It's how the property is being used as a short-term rental, effectively. And then, so therefore, the kitchen, the bathroom, the boiler, the wiring, the radiators, all of those things become plant and machinery, which create a capital allowance. So effectively, the way this works is the replacement, the cost of replacing all of that plant and machinery, the cost of that, if it were to be done, creates the capital allowance, and effectively it creates a loss that you can write, that you can offset against your income. So let's say you got 40 grand's worth of capital allowances, which would cost you 40 grand to replace all of that plant and machinery. Effectively, what that means is you can now earn 40 grand tax free. And the reason why it's pretty cool that it's owned in your brother's own name is he can offset those capital allowances against his personal income. So if he's a high rate taxpayer, he's literally going to be able to earn 40 grand tax free from the income from the service accommodation property. Whereas if a property is owned in a limited company, then the limited company offsets the corporation tax against the capital allowance. So you actually would save 19 grand currently of tax, or 19%, I beg your pardon, in tax. But then the money's still sat in the limited company, and to get that money out, you've got to pay, tax at your personal income tax rate, whether that be dividend or otherwise, or salary, etc. So it's better in lots and lots of reasons, and lots and lots of ways for it to stay in your brother's own name if it's now going to be used as service accommodation. And there's if the property gets sold later on, there's no clawback of the capital allowances as long as it was claimed correctly. If you turn it into a buy-to-let in the future, there's no clawback of the capital allowances because they were claimed legitimately. And so my advice, unless an accountant points out some significant scenarios that are worth considering, is to leave it in your own name, or leave it in his own name.
Brilliant. That's great. Thank you very much indeed. I also wanted to ask, I'm based in the southwest. I've properties in Plymouth, like you, and now in Torquay, and looking to expand over the whole southwest in the coming years. And I just wanted to ask your opinion on management company or continuing to do that management myself, and your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So it's either or for me. It's either you create your own SA management company in which you put all of the systems in place, your own payment system, your merchant account, your own channel manager, your own cleaning team, your own laundry company, your trades people, to everyone that's needed in the business. You've got an accountant, a broker. You've got all of the team in place. And so that's great, and you can scale your service accommodation business to however large you wish to. Typically, going into service accommodation management as in order to grow, as opposed to rent to SA and purchase to SA. Service accommodation management, you're able to scale as large as you want to scale. Literally hundreds of properties you could scale to. And so that's if you were going to set yourself up and wish to go down that route. Other than that, I'm all in favor of leveraging other people's SA management teams. And so what you could do is just decide to find a great SA management company in your location. So you mentioned Plymouth and Torquay. They do exist there. So what you could do is literally outsource the management to those people, and therefore you won't need as many of your own systems in place. So a great way of doing due diligence on them. I mean, you've done my training, so you're able to do your own due diligence on the property, but also to do your due diligence on the SA management company as well. A great way of doing that is to go onto Google, look up short-term rentals. Look up holiday let property, look up serviced accommodation, just type those different things into Google. And effectively, what you're aiming to find is a local service accommodation management company. So holiday lets Torquay, holiday let management Torquay, short-term rental management Torquay, whatever it may be. Go and have a look at their website. If they've got quite a few, then all good. Find the exact same properties though on booking.com and Airbnb and look at the average review score there. Don't take any attention or pay any attention to the reviews that they're putting on their own website. Go and look, see how well they're being managed, and the reviews that you will see on booking.com and Airbnb will give you that information. So if they've got quite a few, then above 8.5 on booking.com, above 4.5 on Airbnb. Will be a good benchmark, and so then that's going to give you a warm fuzzy feeling that they're managing well for other people, so that they will also manage well for you. And then you can go and see them and say, look, if I were to bring you more property, where would it be? What would it look like? What would earn you and therefore me the most money? And then they will give you their knowledge and experience to help you scale, creating a win-win situation.
Brilliant. That's great. Thank you very much. From a social media point of view, I know that I certainly haven't been as proactive as I could be. So this is a sort of great opportunity to start with. But over the last 18 months or so, I've built up a great guest list, and just wanted to ask, sort of best ways to try and use that list, with updates, news, or something else, without bombarding people with lots of rubbish.
Do you mean a guest list that you could? So with your guest list, the best way of creating your own guest list is your guests, you are with permission capturing their email.
Correct. Yeah.
And you're able to retarget them on email. Yeah, great. So ultimately, GDPR compliant. You've got their permission to make them offers in the future. And so that's when we go back to being able to do meet and greets, that's a good thing to do, meeting your guests. So a couple of things on being able to meet guests is quite often they will be, especially with the contractors and trades, they will only be booking for the first 4 nights usually. They turn up on a Monday after work, they leave Friday morning and go home. But actually their contract is lasting for 6 months, their job. But they tend to want to check the place out first before booking for longer. So when you initially get these contractor bookings in, you definitely need to be asking, how long are you in town for, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, you might not be able to accommodate them in that property, your current property, because you might have other bookings, but it gives you the opportunity to maybe book them into other properties, or do you know what, go and source more properties, because they might say, well, we get this a lot. There's loads of us. There's about 30 of us, and we're all in town, and everyone's dotted around all over the place, and we're here for the next 6 months. And 6 months always turns into 7, 8, 9, 10 months. So guess what? Go and get some more properties to be able to accommodate these guys, and you've literally got no voids and just hit the ground running. So that's something that definitely should happen to your guests, how long you're here for, you know, et cetera, can we help? Because clearly they've booked via Airbnb and booking.com, but you can be offering them a discount to book direct through to your website. And you can, you know, booking.com commission you'll pay is 15%. So you've got 15% to play with in order to get them to book with you direct. So that's incentivizing direct long bookings. And then what you can be doing is capturing all of your guests' email addresses and be offering them special offers and direct booking discounts and things like that moving forward, just so that because people forget clearly, but when there is a time for them to come back to your town and your city, they will remember because they've recently had some marketing from you, and then they will just go to their email, find you, book via your website instead of the default, which is going into booking.com, which is the mistake most people allow to happen. People defaulting to booking.com, Airbnb. You want to be in their memory bank, recently having seen some marketing from you. Social media, yeah, absolutely a cool way of doing. This is an example. So we are doing a social media post. This is going out on Facebook, on my YouTube channel. It's going out as a podcast episode. And so I'm currently mentoring you at the minute, Martin. And so I said, let's do it. Let's hit the ground running, and let's do something that puts your message out to the world that you are here and you're looking to scale and grow your service accommodation business. And it's really, really important because it can bring you properties, it can bring you joint venture finance, it can bring you joint venture partners, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you've got to put your message out there to give people the opportunity to reach out to you. So a cool way of marketing on social media is by put a post out. You've got your new listing. Put a post out saying, I'm offering a free weekend break. These are the dates available. To enter the competition to win a free weekend break, you need to like, share, and comment, yes, please. So there's 3 things that are going to boost the algorithm of that post. And then all of the people's feeds that it drops into, because the friends of friends of friends and friends, it pops into their feed because somebody has liked, commented, and shared. Then guess what? The call to action is still the same. Like, comment, share. So literally these posts can go viral. And then what you'll find, and clearly the link to your website is in the post. And so people might think, well, I'm not going to wait until this place is fully booked up for the summer. I'm going to go in and book it now. Okay. And so you can be getting bookings that way. And then ultimately, when it comes down to it, you decide out of all the likes, shares, and comments who wins the competition, and boom, then you just reach out to them and say, okay, great, you won the competition. And then again, whilst they're staying in your property, you could say, would it be okay if we come and interview you and tell us what you like about the property? You know, and so you could do that. That's more social media as well, and it's showing a video inside your property, and you know, they can be saying what they got up to, etc., etc. So that could be part of the competition. If you're willing to for us to interview you at the property and show us around, then great. So that hopefully that's giving you some ideas on getting some social media content, Martin, as well.
That is really helpful. It's great advice. And, you know, with this as a kickstart, just have to say, watch this space. There's going to be more going out. So thank you. And the last question I wanted to ask you was, actually, I'm really, really keen to look at the apartment hotel model and get involved with that, and just your thoughts, having experience there, and any tips you'd pass on.
So I'm thinking Torquay. Wasn't Fawlty Towers in Torquay?
Yes, I'm not sure. I wasn't thinking quite like that, but
the Flowery Twats. Wasn't it when someone messed about with the name of Fawlty Towers and called it Flowery Twats or something like that once on one of the episodes? All right, but ultimately, taking a guest house, B&B hotel, and turning it into an apart hotel. Yeah, I mean, do you know what? I've never been more excited about property than I am now because of this model. So ultimately, yeah, people find themselves in a situation with guest house B&Bs where they would sell if they could, but they can't. they've been operating below the VAT threshold of 85,000. So it makes it virtually impossible for someone to buy that property off them with a commercial loan. Because the commercial lender wants to see the trading history, and their trading history that they're able to produce does not support any level of funding. And so then they think, well, okay, I'll try and sell it to someone to buy it as a residence and turn it back into a dwelling, a normal primary residence dwelling. But you can't do that either because it's a C1 commercial property, and so the residential lenders won't lend against the property either. So literally, they find themselves in a situation where they would have to accept a cash offer, and obviously that creates a situation where people are only willing to offer a small amount of money. But the really cool thing is that understanding different tools of the toolbox here, you could literally take a property like that on a lease purchase option, and ultimately you could agree the purchase price, but at a later date. Let them go because they want out. They thought in their 50s and 60s it was a good idea to start running a guest house B&B, and then they're in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and they want out. So they get to go, and then you actually should be sourcing or looking for a really tired, dated guest house B&B, because you're going to have to do a complete gut job anyway to turn it into an apartment hotel with new wiring, fire alarm system, central heating system, all of the bathrooms en suite with proper, normal toilet facilities, no Saniflow, macerating toilets, and all that stuff that you often find in these places. So yeah, you can take the keys, do the refurb. You can raise private finance to do the refurb, but the great thing is that you're going to significantly increase the value of the property, and you haven't bought it yet. You then get it valued at its new value, refurbed value. So you've got a RICS surveyor's valuation report saying it's worth. So let's say you've got the option to buy it for 200, but now done up nicely, it's worth 500,000. You've now got a survey report saying it's worth 500,000. You then use that to go and raise the 200,000 to buy it. So far, all you've needed to do is finance the refurb. Now you can use the valuation report to buy it. And then once you've bought it, you can then finance again or refinance again later on, depending on the lender, based on the commercial value, which is going to be significantly higher again. Because let's say you've taken a guest house B&B that's got 10 letting rooms currently, but now, because you don't need, because it's an apartment hotel, you're basically creating studio rooms by putting tiny little kitchenette into each ensuite room. So you've now got studio rooms. So now when people are booking you on Airbnb and Booking.com, they're expecting a self-contained unit. They don't expect breakfast. So now, all of a sudden, you don't need the owner's accommodation, the lounge, the dining room, the kitchen. You convert that into studio rooms as well. So you turn 10 into 15. Now the commercial value is huge. The night rates have gone up significantly as well. So you can easily quadruple the commercial value and then refinance against that commercial value, right, and get all of your money back out the deal. And you've now got 15 studio apartments in one building instead of scattered around around Torquay, and the economies of scale that entails. So that's why I'm very excited about this model.
Fantastic, thank you. That is brilliant advice, and that gives me more than enough to keep me going. So thank you very much for answering those and helping me out on the journey forward. Really appreciate it, Kevin. Thank you.
You're very welcome indeed, Martin. So hopefully that was useful for everybody listening in today. Anyone listening in on the podcast, you can reach out to me on my social media. Just search The Property Soldier, and you can ask me any follow-up questions. Anything that you want me to cover in a future podcast episode, that's always good. Gives me some. It's very easy for me if people reach out to me and can you talk about X, Y, and Z. It might be rent to SA or whatever it may be. So that's fine. Reach out to me. Anyone watching this on social media, Facebook, YouTube, etc., then type in the comments any questions that you've got, and I will come back afterwards and answer those questions. So I will finish this podcast episode and this Facebook Live by, in fact, I'm going to let Martin say cheerio to everybody before I wrap up this particular episode. So over to you, Martin.
Yeah, just a huge thank you to you and Caroline for a fantastic day that I had today. It's been awesome. Thank you for inviting me on, and wishing everyone well. And thanks very much.
Yeah, no. So yeah, as Martin was saying, I'm running a mentoring session today. One of the things that Martin said is, and I agree, need to increase the social media output. So I said, right, that's fine. Let's go. Let's jump on and do a podcast episode and bring it out to thousands of people on social media at the same time, as well as the thousands of download listens. So actually, Martin, no, whilst we're on the subject, but if people were to reach out to you, what is the name of your service accommodation operating company? And if anyone wants to reach out to you in terms of joint ventures or whatever it may be, how would they do that?
The easiest way, the company is called Pure Bee. The website is www.purebee.co.uk. Please reach out to me, Martin. I'd be really interested to hear from anyone who's looking at joint ventures, who's doing sourcing. I'm looking at both buy to SA and rent to SA, and open up to lots of opportunities that I know that are out there. So thank you for that shout out. That is really, really kind and appreciated.
You're very welcome, Martin. I'm here to help. Pure Bee, spelled P-U-R-E, then just the letter B on its own.
Yep, correct. Thank you.
Fantastic. So hopefully that was useful for everybody. Here's to your serviced accommodation success. And remember, your future needs you. Take care, everybody. I'll see you soon.